If you know anything about the warp in Warhammer 40k, your mind immediately drifts to demons, the realm of chaos, and the chaos gods, and hell, maybe even Corvus Corax, who has been bullying his brother for the past 10 millennia. But what most people forget about the warp is that most of the Sea of Souls is outside of Chaos's reach. In reality, most of the Immaterium is a massive ocean filled with wildlife, psychic nature, and predators beyond your wildest imagination. The warp is filled with creatures that Games Workshop sadly never really writes about anymore. So in today's video, I want to talk about a subject that has interested me for the last 2 decades and just doesn't get mentioned often enough. What is in the warp besides demons, souls, and gods? What kind of creatures did the earlier editions of 40k tell us about? What have these monsters been up to all of this time? And why did Games Workshop stop writing about them? Well, as a quick teaser, believe it or not, warp creatures are so incredibly powerful and scary that if they showed up in reality for the first time, even the likes of Robute Gilliman would not stand a chance against them. As per usual, all sources used will be shown in the bottom left hand corner throughout the video, just in case you want to check the books I have used or want to read more about these awesome beasties for yourself. Alright, enough talking, let's get into the lore. Before we get into the creatures themselves, I first need to very quickly explain some of the rules of the warp and what kind of beings it can actually produce. Don't worry, I'll keep it quick. Beyond the dreams and nightmares of humanity, there is a plane unrestricted by time or causality. It is known by many names: the Immaterium, the Warp, the Realm of Chaos. At its core, it is best understood as a realm of impossible abstractions made real. Here, the endless legions of thirsting gods are locked into eternal conflict, each fighting for dominance, but the warp is a dimension parallel to our own, and just like our dimension, life comes in many shapes and forms. From the Stratum Aetheris to the Stratum Obscurus, there are a myriad of entities. Many are demonic, but far from all are tied to the Great Pantheon. Some warp creatures exist exclusively within the warp, while others exist in both mediums of reality. Often, they are predatory things, eager to feast on psychers and unaware prey. The dangers they pose to the galaxy ranges from feral-minded beasts to entities capable of bringing the God Emperor of mankind to his knees. The easiest prey to these creatures is an unprotected psyker, who can be used to enter reality and allow for entire packs of beings to manifest. Other creatures of the warp, however, do not wish to leave the warp. If these creatures are manifested in the Materium, they are stranded, stuck in an unfamiliar body in an unfamiliar reality amongst what they consider strange and barbaric creatures. Then, they become violent. Throughout history, these warp spawn have manipulated the denizens of the galaxy, playing on superstition and fear. Often, demon worship follows where such entities cross into reality. Other times, it leads to cryptids or legends. Yet all of this barely scratches the surface of the warp creatures. Number 1. The Astral Spectre. Astral Spectres are entities composed of psychic energy and warp stuff congealed in semi-humanoid forms. When these entities manifest in the physical world, they become incorporeal specters of moving darkness, unnatural mist boiling with flickering images of half-transparent figures that cast no shadow. Specters are known to specifically target humans to devour their soul essence. It is even said that they are born from the psychic powers of a weak will, and thus continue to feed on souls to replenish themselves. Encountering an Astral Spectre leaves any sentient creature unnerved, or makes you experience psychic phenomena. Using their vile powers, they seek to manipulate weaker opponents. No matter their evil plans, specters always target psychers first, out of fear of being cast back into the Immaterium. Astral Spectres are also known to possess their enemies in dire circumstances. Spectres show a cunning level of intelligence when taking a host. Typically, they seek out someone capable of securing their safety, which can result in brute force or manipulation, using a body none of their allies are willing to destroy. Terror is also among their arsenal, a weapon these creatures take pleasure in using. Fear draws them to the point where they are willing to risk themselves by appearing right before their victims. Although rare, Astral Spectres have been on the rise in the Calixis sector, where both the Adeptus Arbites and Ordo Malleus hunt them. If there is a deeper motive behind how Spectres act, sadly it is unknown to the Imperium. The presence of the ruinous powers, violence, and sudden release of psychic energy are the biggest causes for their appearances. Astral Spectres, when infiltrating human settlements, can be a plague that can last for decades, such as the Ally Reaper in Gunmetal City. On the world of Scintilla, the common laborers and menials whisper of a false spirit haunting their streets after dark. It is described as a gaunt figure, swathed in tattered robes, and killing any workers who fail to meet quotas using industrial shears. People have been known to offer blood and bullets to keep the Reaper away. Every week, citizens suddenly vanish, whether they make an offering or not. The Adeptus Arbites have hunted this Reaper for the last 10 years, as production rates have fallen since the Reaper's appearance. The Ordo Malleus has also joined the investigation after learning that, around the first appearance of the Reaper, there was also a psychic incident involving the Black Ships. Perhaps the Reaper is indeed an Astral Spectre and escapes by haunting a new body every night. Perhaps it is an insane dock worker, or even an escaped psyker gone insane. In any case, the Reaper is but one of many threats, keeping the everyday people of the Imperium awake at night. Number 2. Astral Hounds. Astral Hounds are extremely predatory, shadowy dogs. Although they lack higher intelligence, they leave little to no evidence of ever having struck. These beasts hunt the psychic aura of their prey through the warp. Their favorite prey is an unprotected human psyker, and the Astral Hound is the most dangerous threat to any emergent psyker. When they strike, the Astral Hounds do so as a pack. Their bites are numbing, and they use the victim's own powers to drag them into the warp. Here, the Astral Hounds feed on their psychic energy. In many cases, Astral Hounds disappear with their targets, never to be seen again, leaving friends and family confused. Perhaps their scariest ability comes in the form of jumping back and forth between realities when their prey tries to resist their attacks. Kind of like the Gauntlet mission in Titanfall 2. Number 3. Ebon Geists. Ebon Geists are the epitome of war predators. They are mindless predators consumed by their hunger. To them, the soul of mortal life is like blood to a shark in the ocean. Ebon Geists are blacker than the void, a killing shadow. Its chilling talons leave nothing but husked bodies and the shouts of their victims. These predators fade into the dark spaces and strike out when an opportunity presents itself. Sadly, that is literally all the lore we have on them. Some people believe that the Ebon Geist is like the 40k version of a shadow person, but instead of just appearing on the edge of your vision during a misty day, these guys will hunt you down and extract your soul just like a Dementor would. Number 4. Psychneuein. Psychneuein are among the most terrifying insects to have ever skittered throughout the galaxy. These creatures originate from the warp, but can infest both the Materium, Immaterium and the Webway. Female Psychneuein use their powers to plant clutches of eggs in the minds of a psyker. Here, the larvae will feed on the psyker's power. It takes but a single day for a victim to be dead, completely consumed, and the larvae to have fled. A couple of days later, and the larvae have matured. Even on a normal planet, the Psychneuein can eradicate its population in a matter of years. Across the galaxy, the Psychneuein have also mutated into different strains, such as the Mara strain, which destroyed the mining world they are named after. Prospero is another world that was swarmed with Psychneuein. The locals only survived through the use of techno-psychical rays that kept the swarms at bay. Yet the people of Prospero also needed to master their psychic abilities, to harness them so they could protect themselves from the Psychneuein. Against an untrained mind, the Psychneuein is an apex predator. Against a trained mind, they can be kept at bay. There are many stories of the horrors of facing the Psychneuein. One example would be Inquisitor Cruiser. In the feudal world of Zimmertrust, Inquisitor Cruiser fought a massive Psychneuein infestation. Yet when he and his inquisitorial forces arrived, the wasp-like creatures turned rabid. Soon, Cruiser found himself besieged in a fortress where not even heavy bombardments could save him. The Inquisitor, in his madness, decided to blindly execute the locals, hoping to kill the Psykers who attracted the Psychneuein. In an ironic twist of fate, Cruiser ended up getting killed by his navigator for his cruelty. In his death, it was revealed that the Psychneuein were attracted to Cruiser's power, yet also corrupt soul. But to get a full idea of just how powerful and dangerous the Psychneuein are, let's take a look at Jagatai Khan when he first faced them on Prospero, as seen in Scars. The Keshik opened fire with their combi bolters, sending rounds punching straight to the Psychneuein. That seemed to do nothing but attract them, and they began to home in on the source of the noise. The Khan charged at the nearest of them, leaping and twisting in the air to plunge his Dao into the creature's head, aiming to slice it clean from the thorax. It connected with nothing. His momentum carried him bodily into the Psychneuein's ghostly body, and a sensation of utter frigidity shuddered through him. His heart burst into overdrive. He felt a sucking at his chest and a rushing boom in his ears. He stumbled through on the far side of it, falling to one knee, panting heavily. Spots swam before his eyes. The Khan twisted around, just managing to hold his blade in guard. The thing came at him again, still swaying erratically. It lurched at him, misjudging the direction and plowing into the ground to his left. It cannot see. The Khan withdrew, panting, still feeling the horrific drag on his soul. Do not let them touch you. They are blind. Remain at distance. Although the bodyguards of the Khan are fearsome warriors, their weapons were useless against the Psychneuein. Only the Primarch could slay them without aid, yet he ended up separated from his Keshik. Thankfully for the White Scars, a Thousand Son was able to help, banishing the Psychneuein and using his powers to allow the White Scars to strike at them directly, essentially turning their incorporeal bodies into corporeal killable sacks of meat. Number 5. Vampyres. Vampyres are an ancient legend of old Earth, which was discredited as myth, but in reality, they stand out as some of the most cunning warp entities in existence. Vampyres are masters of polymorphing, going as far as to change their metabolism to resemble other creatures. With this power, they infiltrate existing societies. Their base form is a human-sized bat. When infiltrating society, vampires try to gain power and treat others of their kinds as rivals. Vampires have an easy time infiltrating humanity because of their similar level of psycho abilities. When they take the shape of a creature, they are indistinguishable from the original. At their core, vampires are parasites who absorb the life force of other creatures. This absorption is achieved through prolonged physical contact. The myths of vampires have spread from Terra to even Barbaros or Catonia, where they are called Vampyres, who also drink blood by stabbing their teeth into the necks of their victims. Number 6. Khymerae. Khymerae are creatures who feed on nightmares, taking the shape of long-fanged, many-eyed, sinewy felines. The Drukhari Beastmasters love to hunt down and harness these ferocious beasts, and must do so in their own dreams. Should a Beastmaster be successful in his dream quest, he will draw entire packs of Khymerae to his servitude. To highlight the true terror behind Khymerae, it is best if we take a look at Captain Amordica of the Imperial Guard. Amordica had gone missing for several years and was presumed dead. When he returned, he was manic and aggressive, which led to his incarceration in a mental institution. Once there, he refused any sedatives and claimed to have been awake for 3 days without sleep. Amortica begged for anything to keep him awake, but after another 3 days of not sleeping, Amortica either was sedated or finally passed out. It was when he passed out that the entire facility and staff were attacked by Khymerae, planted inside the dreams of Captain Amortica. A cruel trick, which is suspected of being more common than the Imperium thinks. Number 7. Rakasya. The Rakasya is a hunting horror drawn from the Warp, also known as the Warp Worm or Sky Ripper. Rakasya are serpent-like predators with an infinite hunger for flesh. They come in the form of a serpent with wings. Across its skin, it is studded with burning tree-lobed eyes, and where its head is supposed to be, you can find a giant maw of serrated teeth. The tail of a Rakasya ends in barbed tentacles. The sight of these horrors is enough to drive a weak mind insane with fear. From malefic sorcerers to false prophets, the Rakasya is unleashed to fill their enemies with terror. Yet these beasts are hard to control. A Rakasya will continue to devour living flesh until it is banished, including eating its masters. Number 8. The Wraith Angel. Wraith Angels are a diabolical enemy to face. Little is known or understood about these creatures, even by the likes of the Grey Knights and the Holy Inquisition. On one occasion, these entities managed to set a trap for an entire Grey Knight strike force. While searching for a corrupted navigator aboard a destroyed ship, the Grey Knights walked into a chamber that seemed perfectly pristine. Only when focusing on reality could they see past the false images conjured by the Wraith Angels. The Justicar of the squad immediately engaged the corrupted navigator, yet the navigator managed to stop the Grey Knights dead in their tracks, holding his weapon in place, and then the Wraith Angel struck, as seen in the Emperor's Gift. Gashes in reality heralded their arrival, roaring and screaming as they made themselves known. The Neverborn melted out from the shadows, from the broken stained glass friezes, and from the airless air itself. Each one was angelic in form, possessing spectral radiance in place of wings, yet each was debased by flayed wounds, weeping blood from the carvings across their pale skin. Unarmed, they came, silent in the airlessness, with lashes of bleached light reaching from their shoulders. Their eyes bled the deepest, richest red. We needed no warning, as we reacted at once, but not as one. Dumanidon's great blade, the twin of Galio's, slashed out in a blazing arc, cleaving the closest creature in two. Bisected, the angel tumbled away through the chamber, beautiful hands still reaching for us. Those pale fists opened and closed like the mouth of an asphyxiating fish. Wraith Angels! Dumanidon's voice was brittle over the Vox. Don't let them attach their mouths to your armor. Sotus and Melkadil were exemplars of unity, shadowing one another's movements, cutting and carving with their shorter falchions. I blocked a tooting lash of light with my wrist guard, letting it skid across the ceramide Vampyres before thundering a boot into the thing's chest. The impact shattered its ribs, if the crunching sensation was anything to judge by. A second kick had the effect I'd hoped for. My attacker, a shrieking thing with the swollen yellow eyes of a drowned man, crashed back into his floating kindred. All around us, they drifted closer with no regard for physics, ghosting through the vacuum on unseen forces. I counted 50 in a single scan, though their limbs and bodies melded together, overlapping as they neared. A glance spared towards the Justicar showed that his two-handed blade still hadn't fallen clean. Galio heaved down with its weight, head turned from the navigator's glare, while the ragged mutant strapped a blade between its hand. I know you, Anathema's son. The navigator's words carried through all of our minds. I smell your soul. You are a tongueless one, forever silenced by Ravana of the venomous slash. I sensed Galio's anger as a physical force, spilling from him like infection from a sour wound. His focus was slipping, though his grip on the blade was not. She still laughs about it. Even she rides the warp's winds. You remember her, do you not? You remember how she burst your brother's hearts and stole your voice with a crack of her whip. Get in the fight, Hyperion! Dumanidon hissed. The poisoned celestials moved with a will, interlacing their corona flare wings to form a silent host between us and our embattled Justicar, the barricade of unhealthy light blazing from the floor to ceiling. Whatever animated them was growing stronger. The Grey Knights fought the Wraith Angels with great difficulty. They tried to pull their helmets from them in the vacuum of space. The main attack of the Angels was a kiss placed anywhere on the body, and even through Aegis armor, they could suck the life from you. Hyperion managed to save his Justicar by killing the navigator, but the demons simply possessed the ship, creating a whole new threat. Number 9. Enslavers. Sometimes called the Krell or sometimes called the Sirens, are one of the biggest threats to current reality. Enslavers are utterly anathema to any other form of life. Before these monsters appear, they will use a vulnerable Psyker and transform them into a living and writing warp gate. From this gate, the Enslavers emerge. Within 3 days, they can mind slave the entire population of a hive city. Within 3 weeks, they can threaten to conquer the entire world, killing or enslaving all resistance. At first, the Enslavers need to prey on an untrained Psyker through the warp. Once within the Materium, the Enslavers can use any Psyker to create new gates from which more of their kind can emerge. When an Enslaver plague takes hold of a planet, Exterminatus becomes a mercy that must be delivered. The Enslavers are potent psychic beasts, and the ones they enslave are fully aware of what is happening. They are treated without any regard. Starvation, injury, and other bad things happen very often for these ill-fated individuals. So far, the Imperium does not know what would happen if the Enslavers were to achieve their goals, but they work hard to ensure this never happens. An Enslaver plague is one of the worst threats to befall any planet. The Psyker Cull of the Black Ships is a preventative measure against the Enslavers, but it is impossible to track every Psyker in the galaxy, so a single individual can doom their entire planet. Whenever the Inquisition so much as gets a hint of an Enslaver plague, the Death Watch is dispatched to cut the plague down before it takes another world. If the Death Watch acts fast enough, the gates can be closed and each Enslaver hunted down. If not, the consequences are beyond imagining, and usually it ends in exterminatus. The threat of the Enslavers was so unfathomable that, according to some, it is their very emergence which caused the war in heaven to end. It is said that the Enslavers took away much of the fighting forces of the Old Ones, leading to their defeat. In response to the Enslavers, the Necrons began their great sleep, hoping to wake up millennia later in a galaxy cult of all life. How, what or why the Enslavers went through between that and now remains a mystery, but might be related to the rise of the Eldar Empire, which is also argued as a reason behind the great sleep of the Necrons. But before we cover number 10, I'm going to quickfire some of the coolest warp entities Games Workshop has ever written. Aethersites are not so much a single entity, but rather a category consisting of different entities. What unites the Aethersites is their parasitic nature, where they inhabit the living, growing or reproducing, but not always killing their host. Although there are many Aethersites, the best understood ones are the Selegia and the Medusae. The Selegia is a winged beetle that kills its host in the long run. Selegias actually live inside the bloodstream of a person for years. On occasion, you might see a visible swelling where it moves beneath the skin. When the Selegia has absorbed enough genetic information, it puts its host into a catatonic state. The Selegia then excretes a silk-like material that forms a cocoon around the host. A few days later, the Selegia emerges from the cocoon, transformed into a perfect copy of its host. The Selegia masquerades as its host, working towards some unknown goal only known to itself. The Medusae, on the other hand, is a creature also known for inhabiting the webway. The Medusae surprisingly is not harmful to its host, as when it is removed, the host can continue a mostly normal life. That is with one exception. Those who were possessed by the Medusae have a near perfect memory of everything that happened, but the world seemed better and more colorful with it. When removed, the host often becomes depressed, the world is grey, and life is neutered. At its core, the Medusae is still a parasite. It resembles a disembodied brain with tentacles that resemble a spinal column. It is through these tentacles that the Medusae attaches itself to a host. When not attached to a host, the Medusae feed on dreams and nightmares alike with its empathic abilities. Yet all of these abilities have resulted in the Archons of Khymerae using the Medusae for their own pleasure. The Medusae store extreme sensations and even have brain fruit which can be picked and consumed. So Archons bring Medusae onto the battlefield, where they can absorb the worst pain and fear imaginable, which then can be consumed for a second time, long after the fact. The Medusae can also be placed on a Drukhari as well as a human. When forced to fight, the Medusae uses a paralyzing gaze of raw anguish to put its enemies into a permanent coma. The most interesting account of a Medusae, however, remains of a poet on Terra. This poet was a host to a Medusa for a year, during which he created such great poetry that decades after the fact, he was still a guest of great prestige among Terra's upper classes. Yet without the Medusae, the poet became a miserable man, only entertained by his former glory. Alright, and now time for number 10. Let's take a look at the Graels. Number 10. Graels. Graels are a mysterious and somewhat artificially created form of warp entity. Graels are the abominable forces of the Eight, who serve the King in yellow. Each is a small floating orb of bright light, coming in different colors. Their presence can make an entire crowd flee in panic, even ignoring orders from an Inquisitor. Even a blank struggles in their presence if using an inhibitor. Worse yet, the Cognitae has been grooming subjects from different scolums to turn them into Graels for the Yellow King. And as seen in Penitent, Graels can only be fought with the most powerful and esoteric weapons. This is xenos shit, a stranger race gun. It is an Interax Mauler, Mam Mordant replied with little patience. It uses Khymerae filament photonics, just point it and shoot it, or you are no use to us. 6 Graels, each of a different incandescent hue, were now scraping and pushing at the windows. The glass shivered. Glowing coals of resistance flew from the balls of light and flurried out across the balcony terrace, like sparks from a wind-blown bonfire. Beckwin could hear the others, shrieking and scraping against the main door, and at the walls, and at the floor. The wards will not hold, Mam Mordaunt murmured. The wish marks scribed on the sills and frames of the windows were already beginning to smolder, spilling tufts of grey smoke into the air. The panes creaked and shifted. One Grael, a malevolent acid yellow, swam backwards and then rushed at the glass with furious intent. I heard the thump of the impact. There was a bloom of corpuscent and a painful crack like lightning hitting the ground, and the Grael was thrown backwards again, shedding flecks of light. It seemed to simmer, hovering to recover itself, and then rushed the glass once more, with similar results. The others battered and knocked, fizzling with malicious energy. Where some pressed with steady effort, the green tint of the glass began to bleach out, leaving pockmarks of clear glass through which hard slanting beams of pale daylight began to spear the apartment. The yellow Grael struck at the barrier again. Another Fury Red commenced the same approach, throwing itself at the glass with repeated indignation. More bleaching spots appeared in the tinting. More rays of sunlight lanced into the room. The red Grael impacted again, and this time the glass began to bubble, as if heated. Small cracks had begun to form in the panes. 3 of the witch marks on the frame caught fire and started to dance with the fierce little flames. Beckwin caught Mam Mordaunt casting a look her way. She didn't speak. Her eyes were everything. Beckwin saw her anger, her fear and her blame. This was a doom she had evaded for months, since the fall of the maze, and now it had found her because of Beckwin. Beckwin had brought this to her door, unwittingly perhaps, but most assuredly. And Beckwin's bold claims that the Inquisition would protect her were wordless. A violet Grael flew at the windows, met resistance in a seething fluorescent halo for a second, and then broke clean through, sailing into the apartment, leaving a molten-edged hole the size of a fist in the glass behind it. It came at us, moving with shocking speed. Mordaunt aimed, both arms straight, one eye closed, and fired. The searing pulse from her Interax beam gun struck it dead center. The grill expanded for a moment as it absorbed a massive energy load, like a billion-year time-lapse of a star growing swollen with age. Then it burst like a supernova. There was a smack of shockwave as it did so. Beckwin recoiled and felt the heat of it on her face. The grill blew apart, showering sparks of violet light in all directions. The investigations of Beckwin and Eisenhorn had brought them into contact with Graels before, but as we just discussed, only powerful weapons like the Interax Mauler or flak missiles that Beckwin used later on could actually beat back the Graels. In conclusion, the non-demonic entities or demons not aligned with the Chaos Gods remain some of 40k's most interesting lore. Back when some of these creatures were first made during the Rogue Trader era, they were encouraged to be used as alternative enemies for role-playing encounters. To this day, these creatures remain a pivotal part of the different role-playing games, from Dark Heresy all the way to Deathwatch, but also have found a home in the more recent novels of Warhammer 40k. Warp creatures embrace everything bizarre about the setting. Most are nightmarish monsters, some are threats to the entire galaxy, and others are just parasites. Personally, I think the Medusae is the most interesting of all, but I would love to hear what you guys think. Let me know your comments, concerns, suggestions, theories and ideas down in the comment section below. If you think I deserved it with this video, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It helps push this video into the algorithm and it would make me very happy. Thank you for watching and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Bye bye.